My fiancé planned to dump me after the wedding and take half, but I was ready. Hey, I used to believe that things would work out if you did everything right. Loved someone fully, supported them, and built a life together. That's what I thought I was doing with Sabrina. I was wrong. My name's Caleb. I'm 34 now, but this all started 3 years ago when I was turning 31 and thought I'd found the person I'd spend the rest of my life with. Sabrina was 29, charming, smart, and full of ambition. We met through mutual friends at a party, and from the moment we started talking, I was all in. Within a year, we were living together. By year 2, I was down on one knee. She said yes. She cried. I thought it was out of love. It wasn't. Back then, I had a stable career in logistics, a home I'd spent years fixing up on my own, and some savings, not millionaire rich, but enough to feel proud of what I'd built. Sabrina had always praised me for it. She talked about our future, our dream house, our kids. Looking back, I realize now, she never meant any of it. She just wanted access to what I had. The switch started to flip after we got engaged. Sabrina became calculated. She pushed hard to merge our finances, wanted access to accounts for transparency, and started spending way more than before. I chalked it up to wedding stress, maybe even excitement. I didn't question her. I wanted to trust her. One night, about 6 months before the wedding, she said she was going to her friend Kayla's for wine and wedding talk. Harmless, right? I stayed home catching up on work. That's when it happened. Her iPad buzzed on the kitchen counter. I normally wouldn't have looked, but the message preview that popped up made my stomach twist. Kayla, he really has no clue. You're gonna be rich. I stared at it. Not because I was suspicious, but because I was in complete denial. My first thought wasn't even betrayal. It was, there has to be a reasonable explanation. Spoiler, there wasn't. I tapped into the message thread. The entire chat history between Sabrina and her so-called friends was sitting there, unprotected. And what do I see? She'd been planning it for months. They were all in on it. Sabrina, I'll file 6 months in. No way I'm staying longer than that. Kayla, get the ring, get the house, then get the F out lol. Sabrina, he's just my starter husband. I deserve half for putting up with his boring ass for 3 years. I was frozen. I read every single message, her outlining how she'd make sure I never thought about a prenup, her saying she'd turn on the tears if I ever brought it up, even a full plan to max out the joint account before filing for divorce. That night, something in me snapped. But I didn't rage. I didn't confront her. I smiled, because if Sabrina thought I was going to roll over and let her take half of everything I worked for, she just made the biggest mistake of her life. I wasn't going to leave her. Not yet. I was going to beat her at her own game. After that night, everything changed. Not on the surface. Outwardly, I played my part perfectly. I was still the doting fiancé, still planning the wedding, still smiling when she showed me overpriced floral arrangements and Instagram-worthy seating charts. But inside, I was already planning her downfall. Sabrina had no idea I'd seen the messages. No clue her little digital blueprint for betrayal had landed in the wrong hands. And that's what gave me the advantage. She was cocky, so sure I'd stay clueless until it was too late. So I used her overconfidence as a shield while I set everything in motion behind the scenes. Step 1. I called my lawyer. His name's Marcus, and thankfully he's not just a solid divorce attorney. He's been through this kind of scam before. I laid everything out for him, word for word. The messages, the plan, the way she manipulated me into avoiding a prenup, all of it. He didn't even blink. She's good, Marcus said, but not good enough. Over the next few weeks, we put together a prenup so ironclad it could survive a meteor strike. Not a generic template either. This thing had teeth. If she initiated the divorce, she got nothing. Any intent to manipulate, defraud, or use emotional coercion nullified the agreement and triggered a financial penalty. Proof of intent to commit financial fraud, aka her little text archive, fully admissible. All assets acquired during marriage would remain exclusively mine. And the cherry on top, she would be responsible for legal fees if she tried to contest it. This wasn't just protection, it was a trap, and she was about to walk into it. The trick was getting her to sign it without suspicion, and that required performance. So I set the stage. One afternoon, I faked a loud phone call in my home office while I knew Sabrina was just outside in the hallway. Yeah, man, it's just a formality. The lawyer says it won't actually hold up if it ever comes to that. Come on. You think I'd really take money from Sabrina? Nah, she's not like that. She already said she's fine signing it. I could hear her footsteps pause outside the door. Got her. Later that night, I casually brought it up over dinner. I played the clueless, sweet guy role to perfection. Hey, babe? Marcus says we should probably sign something, just basic stuff. Legal formality. I mean, it's silly, right? But it'll make things easier if we ever need to, plan for the future. Her eyes narrowed slightly, calculating. Like a prenup? She asked, half smirking. I gave a soft laugh. I mean, I guess. But we can add stuff for you, too. Just so it feels fair. Like a trip clause, or a little cushion if we break up. Sabrina's smile returned, fake and sugary sweet. Sure, she said. If it makes you feel better, I'll sign it. She signed it that weekend. And with one flick of a pen, Sabrina thought she'd outplayed me. But she didn't know that clause she added, the one she thought secured her a little settlement if things went south, was legally meaningless. Marcus and I wrote it like a magic trick. Vague, performative, and entirely unenforceable. She thought it was her leverage. It was my insurance. And just like that, the trap was set. Update. So, it's been a few weeks since Sabrina signed the prenup, and honestly, watching her carry on like she still had me fooled, that might have been the most surreal part of it all. She was so confident, so smug. It was like seeing someone skip straight into a pit you dug with your own hands. And the best part? She brought her shovel. She didn't scale back her spending after signing. If anything, she ramped it up. Hard. The wedding planning went into overdrive. She insisted on upgrading the venue twice. Then she started booking vendors that charged more than my first car. Cake tastings turned into catered tasting events. The wedding dress? Custom designed. Flown in from Italy. She put everything on our joint card like she was entitled to it already. I didn't stop her. Not once. Every dollar she threw into her dream wedding was money she assumed she'd cash in on later. She acted like she was already living off the settlement. Like the ink on our marriage certificate would magically print her a check. What she didn't know was that I had already stopped contributing to our joint fund weeks ago. I moved the bulk of my savings into protected accounts, separated all incoming income, transferred ownership of assets into a trust, all legally bulletproof, all quietly handled behind the scenes. And while she burned through the wedding budget, I watched her. Sabrina started slipping slowly at first. The affection thinned out. The random compliments stopped. Her touch felt mechanical, like she was just checking off the boxes. When I brought up our honeymoon plans, she barely looked up from her phone. There was no spark anymore. Just a calculation. She thought I hadn't noticed. She thought she was still in control. Meanwhile, her friends, Kayla and the rest of the group chat villain, kept encouraging her. I saw every message, every smug little line about how close she was to the finish line. How she just had to keep playing the doting fiancé a few more months. They called me a placeholder, a means to an end. Kayla even called me her starter husband. I let them, because I wasn't just preparing for the wedding. I was preparing for the fallout. I documented everything. Every message, every call, every plan she casually mentioned and didn't realize I already had receipts for. Marcus was compiling it all into a neat little digital folder labeled, just in case. The truth? Sabrina wasn't marrying me. She was marrying the lifestyle, the house, the car, the idea of financial freedom she hadn't earned. And she had no idea that every choice she made, every dollar she spent, every lie she told was sealing her fate. The best revenge isn't rage, it's precision. And I had all the time in the world to wait for her to make her move. The wedding day arrived like it was pulled straight from a luxury bridal magazine. The venue was a cathedral-sized estate tucked into the hills outside the city. Her pick, of course. She had spared no expense. Crystal chandeliers, imported flowers, a custom arch carved with our initials. It was all stunning, sure, but I didn't see beauty. I saw evidence. She stood at the back of the aisle, radiant in white. Her smile stretched just wide enough to fool every guest in the room. Everyone else saw a glowing bride. I saw a liar preparing for her last performance. And I'll admit it, there was a part of me, deep down, that almost wanted to believe it. Maybe she would stop. That maybe she'd changed her mind. That the moment she said, "I do," it would be real. But then I caught her glance at Kayla. That smug, knowing smirk. That was all I needed. She took my arm with gentle confidence, like she knew the power she had over me. I kept my face calm, warm. I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I let her slip the ring on my finger like she was winning a prize. The ceremony was flawless. Her parents cried. The guests clapped. Our photographer captured kiss after kiss, none of which meant a thing. But what Sabrina didn't know was that she hadn't just sealed her marriage. She'd locked herself into a contract she never truly read. A contract that didn't end in happily ever after, it ended in reality. Later that night, after the dancing and speeches and overpriced champagne, we flew out to the Maldives for our honeymoon. Sabrina had picked every location, every hotel, every spa treatment. 5-star everything. She glowed like she'd just secured the biggest win of her life. I let her. She spent like we were royalty. Her favorite new line was, "We're married now, what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine." Every time she said it, she giggled like it was a joke. I laughed with her. 3 weeks in, she stopped trying altogether. The honeymoon intimacy faded. The smiles became mechanical again. She stopped asking about the future. She didn't even bother to act interested in the things I said. And I knew she was starting the exit plan. Back home, things got colder. She picked more fights. She made subtle jabs about how we moved too fast or how maybe people change after marriage. She even hinted at getting her own space, just to think. She thought she was so clever. But I already had the prenup. The receipts. The evidence. I wasn't trying to stop her from leaving. I was just waiting for her to ask. Because the moment she did, that would be the moment everything she thought she'd gain vanished. Update. It didn't take long. 3 months after we got back from the honeymoon, Sabrina finally made her move. And it was so rehearsed, so poorly disguised, I almost laughed right in her face. She waited until a quiet Thursday night, wine poured, candles lit, some lo-fi playlist humming in the background. I could tell she'd spent hours setting the scene to look casual. She sat across from me, nervous, like she was about to confess something heartbreaking. "Caleb," she said softly, "I think we need to talk." I leaned forward, doing my best to look concerned. "Of course. What's going on?" She took a long, dramatic pause, as if this was so painful for her. "I don't think we're working out. Maybe we rush things. Maybe we just aren't compatible the way we thought." I nodded slowly, pretending to be heartbroken. "You're saying you want a divorce?" She reached for my hand like she was offering comfort. "It's for the best. We should end things while we still respect each other." I could barely hold in the smirk. Instead, I sighed, nodded, and said the one line I'd rehearsed a dozen times. "Then let's go meet with my lawyer tomorrow. We'll make it official." That night, she was humming while she brushed her teeth. She didn't even try to hide her smugness anymore. She thought she'd pulled it off. That she'd fooled me all the way to the finish line. The next morning, she dressed up for the lawyer's office like she was going to a fashion event, designer dress, heels, flawless makeup. She even wore the necklace I bought her last Christmas. Like a trophy. When we arrived, Marcus was already waiting. Calm, confident, and honestly looking like he was enjoying this even more than I was. Sabrina smiled, introduced herself, and took her seat like she already owned the place. "Let's talk about the terms," she said brightly. Marcus opened the folder and began flipping through it slowly, letting the tension stretch just long enough. Then he asked her one simple question. "Just to confirm, you're the one initiating this divorce?" Sabrina nodded. "Yes, I think it's for the best." "Perfect," he said, sliding the prenup across the table. "Then we'll begin with the agreement you signed before the marriage." She blinked. "Oh, well, I mean, that was just for formality. Caleb and I already talked about it. It's not enforceable or anything." Marcus didn't flinch. "Actually, it is. Fully enforceable. Ironclad. You signed it voluntarily and we have documentation confirming you read every clause." I watched her expression shift, smile fading, lips tightening. This must be a misunderstanding," she said quietly. "No misunderstanding," Marcus replied, calm as ever. "As per the terms, if you initiate the divorce, you receive no spousal support. No claim to assets. No compensation." Her hands gripped the armrests. "That can't be right." Additionally, Marcus continued, given the documented intent to commit financial fraud. Her head snapped up. "Excuse me. We have digital records of your communications," he said. "Text threads, voice memos, and screenshots. Proof that this marriage was entered under false pretenses for financial gain. That alone would nullify any claim even without the prenup." Sabrina turned to me, eyes wide. "Caleb, you spied on me?" "No," I said, leaning back in my chair. "I just paid attention." She looked like she'd been slapped. But Marcus wasn't done. "Furthermore, you'll be responsible for all legal fees associated with this filing. That includes my retainer, document processing, and Caleb's court representation, should you choose to contest anything." Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "You can't do this." I didn't, I said. You did. When you signed your name. And just like that, the game she'd been playing for over a year collapsed. The best part? She'd walked herself right into it. What happened in the lawyer's office that day? That was just the start. I expected Sabrina to try and fight back. To deny, to gaslight, to beg. Instead, she just froze. I watched the color drain from her face. The confidence fall away like she didn't even recognize the room she was sitting in anymore. But I knew her silence wouldn't last. And I was right. Later that night, she tried to talk her way out of it. Said it was all a misunderstanding. Claimed the texts were taken out of context. That girls joke about stuff like that all the time. That I was overreacting and throwing away a marriage over nothing. I didn't respond. I just looked at her. She finally gave up, stormed out, and slammed the door behind her. I thought that would be the last time I'd hear from her directly. But then it hit the group chats. At first, it was just whispers. Friends asking questions, screenshots being passed around. Then Kayla's name showed up on social media. Someone leaked their messages. Someone always does. Within a week, Sabrina went from glowing bride to internet cautionary tale. Her texts went viral in the worst possible way. Not on a massive national scale, but in exactly the places that mattered most: her friends, her old colleagues, her professional contacts. Every group she once held power in now saw her for what she was. Not a victim. Not a smart woman making a smart move. A fraud. Con artist. A walking punchline. And the friends she thought would have her back? They bailed faster than she could hit delete. Kayla ghosted her. Lauren posted some vague, "Don't condone toxic behavior" story and quietly unfollowed her. Even her maid of honor texted me an apology. The real kicker? Her own family turned on her. Her mom called me, not to beg me to forgive her daughter, but to apologize. She said, "I didn't raise her like this." And for a brief moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. Sabrina tried to do damage control. Posted a long passive-aggressive paragraph about fake narratives and haters who don't know the full story. But no one cared. No one was buying it. And soon, the real consequences started showing up. Her social media numbers tanked. A couple of companies she'd been doing influencer work for quietly cut ties. She lost brand deals. She lost her apartment when the bills stacked up. The image she'd spent years building, elegant, classy, successful, crumbled under the weight of her lies. And here's the irony. Sabrina always said she didn't want to depend on a man, that she was too independent for that. But she wasn't building independence. She was just trying to fast-track wealth without the work. And in the end, that shortcut cost her everything. Final update. I hadn't seen her in nearly 8 months. By then, the divorce was finalized. She'd stopped trying to fight it. The prenup held up perfectly, and she ended up walking away with exactly what she'd signed for. Nothing. Except it was nothing. She left with a reputation in ruins, debts she couldn't outrun, and a version of herself she could no longer sell to the world. Meanwhile, I was fine. Better than fine, honestly. Work was good. I started traveling again. I'd gotten my peace back, and that was the one thing she could never take. Then one afternoon, I stopped into a cafe near my office. Just a quiet spot I like when I need a break from people. And there she was. Sabrina. She was sitting by the window alone. No makeup. Her hair was pulled back. She looked tired. Smaller somehow. She saw me. And for a second, I saw something flicker in her face. Embarrassment. Fear. Maybe shame. She hesitated, then gave a weak smile. "Caleb," she said. "Hey." I nodded. "Sabrina." She stood up, stepped closer, like she wasn't even sure why. Maybe just on instinct. She looked like she was about to say something rehearsed, then stopped. Her eyes were glassy. "I deserved it, didn't I?" she finally asked, almost a whisper. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. Really looked. For the first time since the day everything ended. "You threw it away," I said. "That's the difference." She swallowed hard, nodded once. Her hands were shaking. "I thought I was being smart," she said. "You weren't," I replied evenly. "You were being cruel." She blinked fast, trying to keep it together. I waited. "I'm sorry," she said, barely audible. But I didn't flinch. I didn't comfort her. I didn't ask her to explain. Because in that moment I realized something important. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I didn't need her apology. She could keep it. I pulled a few bills from my wallet, dropped them on the table, and gave her a nod. Take care of yourself, Sabrina. Then I walked out. That was the last time I saw her. And I hope it stays that way. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't what you say. It's what you don't. In my opinion. This story isn't about hate, it's about clarity. Sabrina thought she had the upper hand, but what she didn't realize is that greed leaves footprints. Caleb didn't just protect himself, he gave her every chance to walk away, and she ran straight into the mess she created. There's a lesson in this: you can fake love, but you can't fake loyalty. And when someone's true intentions surface, silence becomes the most powerful response of all. Have you ever been used by someone you trusted? Or maybe you caught the red flags before it was too late. Drop your story in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.